Now that you've gone through and edited your resume multiple times and ensured that everything from the styling down to each of the bullet points is telling your story in the way that you think will be impactful, you're now ready to take it and get feedback from others, or start applying for jobs. But really, the step of getting feedback from others is going to help you refine your resume even further. Because oftentimes, when we're working on something, we don't understand how other people will view it, especially if you're, say, an individual contributor, if you're a software engineer. Uh, the way that your resume is perceived, or that you perceive your own resume, or say a colleague's resume, is going to be a lot different than a recruiter or hiring manager. So, in order to ensure that your resume is as specific and impactful as you want it to be, the process of getting feedback from recruiters and from hiring managers is really going to help set you apart. So, to do this, if you know anybody, whether it's your current manager, former managers, or if you have friends that have gone through hiring processes, that have reviewed resumes, getting their feedback and asking some specific questions will help get the feedback and refinement that you really need to improve your resume. So, a few questions that you may want to ask are: based on my resume, what role do you think is a best fit for me? So asking recruiters, especially recruiters that you don't know. So if you're in the hiring process, talking to them and asking them that specific question will help to see if your story is as clear as you want it to be. And there's, even though it's a small difference, but software engineer versus full stack engineer versus front end engineer, there's a variety of ways to position the same role, both from a company standpoint and then also from a personal standpoint. And each of those small differences is going to determine a number of things, like which roles you're a great fit for, or people see you as a great fit for, as well as what your actual job description and job activities will look like once you're hired. So, starting out and asking those high level questions about your story is really important to make sure that what you're intending is the way that the market is going to perceive you. And then from there, asking specific questions around your bullet points. So, it's really the last or the most recent jobs that you've had that are most important from a bullet point standpoint. So, asking a recruiter what bullet points were most influential or that stood out the most to them is a good way to see where in your resume people are drawn to. And then you can use those bullet points and replicate them across your others. But it also helps you understand if the things that you're saying about the roles that you've had is what you're intending, because maybe your most impactful, or the experiences that you had that ended up being the most valuable to the company is not, you're not displaying that in a way that others can see. And what you'll do once you get that feedback, you'll want to move the best bullet points to the top so that it's easiest to scan. And because as humans, what we do when we scan is we take a look at usually the first, and we kind of bunch everything in the middle together, and then we take a look at the last. So having your first and your last bullet points be really strong, and then having scattering a couple of others in between will also make it seem like a story, right? A great beginning, a great end, and something in the middle that will capture people's attention. And then the more that you can have it flow from one bullet point to the next, the better. So another thing to do to self-assess is just going through your resume and seeing what story you tell. So as I was reflecting with my last experience with automation helpers, once I ended my time there, I was looking at my resume, and I wasn't really proud of the story that I was telling, that I had short stints between multiple jobs. And a lot of that was, of course, outside of our control. But asking people and getting their feedback about this, and this is something that I had heard previously, even before, when I was at Quantum Metric and other companies, is these short stints of a year or two didn't look favorably on me. And so doing that review and saying, and trying to look at from an outside perspective of what would someone else think of my professional history based on what they're seeing with my resume. And that's what ultimately led me to starting my next company, is I knew it was a part of who I was, and it it wouldn't be authentic for me to try to go and get another job knowing that I wanted to start a company as my next venture, and so I wouldn't be fully committed. And so going through that perspective may help you see your true self, your true colors, and what you really value. Whether you're trying to decide between a software engineering and a design role, or maybe it's within software engineering if you like data engineering and you like DevOps, and you're trying to decide between the two. Taking a look at your resume and seeing the story that you've told yourself, the path that you've followed. And if you do want to make the change, making the effort, it'll be a harder path to take if you've been a DevOps engineer and you want to move into data engineering. But if you know that's what you truly love and appreciate, then you're essentially writing a whole new story for yourself, and you may need to start over in a sense. And so being honest with yourself with the amount of energy and time that it will take to reach the position, reach your dream job, is really really valuable. Because if you're a senior DevOps engineer, you might not be a senior data engineer, but there could be a company that you're able to do both, and then slowly make that transition. And so part of the resume is thinking through, okay, how can I take my past experience and match that with what I'm hoping to do in the future, and ensure that story is working for you in a way where it'll be impactful in the long run.